and he's vomiting out of the car at around 150 miles an hour through New Jersey. So we were the team from Boston. We did 3 attempts at the Cannonball run during COVID, and maybe one a little bit sort of at the end of COVID, maybe not COVID. One in high 26 hours. Our best was the last one at 25:57 was our best run. And we did it the first 2 runs in Audi S8 Plus, and the last run we did it in an BMW M5 competition. So my part of the run was kind of planning out the technology and doing a lot of the research and the math of the run, and where we needed to be when to make it all kind of work. For me, building the car is much better than actually driving the car across the country. Driving across the country is kind of miserable once you get into it, but building the car was always fun. So I like planning it all out. On the S8, we wanted to go nuts. So our kind of theory for the run was we wanted to do it and not look back where like, oh, we could have done this and gone faster. So we wanted to do everything we possibly could think of within reason to get across the country as fast as possible. So we started planning out our countermeasures. We needed a radar detector jammer, so we went with the ALP radar jammer tied in with the Redenso radar detector. We had a police scanner in the car, an infrared camera shooting out the front of the car. That was kind of sort of on the way it worked. It caught a deer one time right before we almost hit it, so not really a great countermeasure. It really didn't stop too much. Also in the car, we built a custom computer for the car that did a couple things for us. First thing it was hooked up to an ADS-B antenna that was on top of the car with also a GPS antenna. And ADS-B, for those who don't know, is the protocol that commercial and private airplanes use to communicate with each other and air traffic control, to kind of let you know who the plane is, where it's headed, speed, direction, that type of stuff. That is all public. You can just put an antenna, it's not encrypted, and you can receive all that information and put it on a map using the GPS data that's included with it. And it gives tail numbers of planes. The FAA database is public knowledge, so you can go on and look up, say, Ohio State Police, and see which planes are registered to the Ohio State Police and what their tail numbers are. And if you put that in database, cross-reference it by what you're receiving on the antenna, you can see if one of those planes are near your car. So in this computer would do that for us. It would upload that information to other sources that compile that. So ADS-B Exchange, FlightAware compile that information. The apps JVB1 and Highway Radar pull from those databases. So it was kind of like a loop. We were using our local information to supply the information that JBV1 is pulling. So we're having double information, the one that locally our computer's generating, and then the crowdsourced information that we're getting from other third-party sources. And we could load on any iPad or phone in the car, log into the computer and see in a map which planes were overhead, how far away they were, where they were going, altitude, and who owned the planes. And it would give us notifications if it was a suspicious owner. And by suspicious, I mean a police department. The computer also did our fuel system. We could hit a button and it would put in 8 minutes, 10 minutes of fuel. We'd done calculations on the fuel pump to make sure that those times were what we wanted to go in a tank at any given time. It also did a recording, and so during the Cannonball, you need proof at the end that you've done it, and proof that people are going to accept. So we spent a lot of time making sure that we had all the data we needed for proof. So the GPS antenna on our car would tie into this computer. Every second is taking a snapshot of where the car is, what our latitude and longitude is, our altitude, our speed, our direction, and which GPS satellites it's connected to, and put it all in a giant spreadsheet each second for the entire run over 26 hours. So that was our kind of definitive proof that we could give to anybody, and they could verify all the information and where we were the whole time. The last thing the computer did is it was its own kind of custom Cannonball GPS. It told us how long we were on the route for, how much ground we've covered, what our average speed was. It also told us if we continued on that average speed, what our final time was, our speed that we would need to complete the run to break the record, and we had different zones with different colors that would pop up: red, yellow, and green, whether we were on target to beat the record, yellow we're close, and red where we need to pick it up. And every 5 minutes it would give us a refresh if we were speeding up or slowing down. So we kind of had something in the car to remind us if we were losing ground or gaining ground as we went along. So the computer ended up being one of the vital things in the car that helped us to keep us on pace, keep us engaged the entire time, and keep us safe from people that are trying to pull us over. Even with all the countermeasures we had in the car, the most important thing that we had on the Cannonball was our spotters. And the first run, we did the first run only about a month after the COVID pandemic started. We had originally planned having a couple dozen spotters, but at that time, no one really knew what COVID was. No one wanted to travel, so we lost a lot of our spotters at the last second, which is completely understandable. And on that run, we struggled in areas that we did not have spotters. And we learned for the next two runs that we needed more spotters. Over time, as COVID, it became obvious that potentially wasn't as deadly or as prevalent as it could have been when we originally started. We had more spotters that volunteered and were willing to travel, and we sent friends and family and wives and girlfriends and everybody all over the country to spot for us, rented them cars, put them in hotels, have them drive out in front of us. My wife did a stint out in Colorado into Utah for us. So in the last two runs, we had, I think, 25 spotters for the second to last run. And our last run, we had 28 spotters in total. And they covered clear coast to coast. We didn't have any blind spots. There were some times where the spotters got a little bit spread out, and we had a home base back in Massachusetts, just outside of Boston. That was our command center. They were in constant communication with all of our spotters back and forth. Tedward was leading up the charge and making sure everyone stayed kind of spaced out where they needed to be along the route, telling them to slow down if they're getting too far out ahead of us, or speed up if we were catching them too quick. And the people back in Boston did a great job making sure that our spotters were where we needed them to be, and they were relaying the information that we needed through our command center to us back in the car. That all started when we were on our first run. We had our friend Matt was our third co-driver, and I don't even think we made it out of New Jersey, and he started to get car sick. And he's vomiting out of the car at around 150 miles an hour through New Jersey. It became very clear that he wouldn't be driving for us on the run. Later on in the run, he was too sick. He couldn't go on. We decided we were going to drop him off in the middle of the desert in New Mexico on the side of the road, and one of our spotters was going to come pick him up. So we drop him off. Just me and Chris in the car. I'm driving. He's a spotter in the passenger seat, and it becomes very clear at that moment that it's too much to deal with just two people in the car. I needed his eyes on the road spotting, but also somebody to talk to the remaining spotters that we had, and also do some calculations for us. Are we going to make it for the record? Is it still possible? What speeds do we need to do to make it to the end for a time that would break the record? And just to give us every couple minutes, like, hey, are you speeding up, slowing down? You need to go faster. You lost some time there. You made up some time there. So we kind of called Tedward kind of ad hoc and just said, hey, we need you to sit by the phone and do some calculations for us and kind of report in every once in a while about how we're doing. And he did a great job with that on the kind of spur of the moment. And then the next two runs, we recruited him and said, like, you're the guy. You're going to do that now for the whole run, and all the spotters are going to talk to you. And he did a great job. First, the second run, he ran it out of a shipping container at one of our friend's shops with a bunch of people. And on the third run, our friend Sam, who was our co-driver on the second run, opened his house, and we had 10, 15 people at his house working our command center, talking to the spotters, relaying that information to us, and doing everything. They were watching our in-car camera the entire way, making sure what they were seeing on the camera was the same thing that they were seeing on the GPS and what the spotters were seeing. And they did a great job. And that was far and away the biggest countermeasure we can have, is just having a team of people looking out for you.
We'd like to thank Glossit for supporting the VinWiki channel this month, and right now Glossit is offering the best DIY ceramic coating package that we've ever seen or certainly offered here on VinWiki. For just $69.99, you're going to get their graphene ceramic coating along with the Real Difference Maker, their ceramic detail spray. Now that's a $50 bottle of spray detailer that I truly love just for daily use, but when you use that alongside their graphene ceramic coating, it makes the removal a lot easier, the outcome a lot smoother, you avoid high spots and things like that. So a DIY idiot like me in my own garage can achieve an outcome pretty similar to what Rich and his team were able to do last year on the Paris Hilton SLR, which I eventually torture tested on rallies and road trips and all this stuff, and it is now in Bulgaria, still looking wonderful. So check it out now at the link in the description below. There's a very limited quantity, so respond now and get yours for just $69.99. Thanks, Glossit.